Solid hardwood outperforms engineered hardwood in a dry environment. What you get with engineered flooring when it's dry, which in this room here, we heat this whole space with 2 wood pellet stoves using hardwood flooring waste. How green is that, right? It's heated with 2 pellet stoves, so it gets really, really super dry. And what happens with the engineered flooring is basically the surface layer wants to shrink, but the base doesn't let it. So you get these checks where the boards have cracked and moved because there's a restriction from the base to the surface. Whereas it's solid hardwood, what happens if it gets dry, the whole board shrinks. So it shrinks as a whole. And worst case, you're going to have some gaps between the boards, like you see here. Actually, this is a great example. This is solid, this is engineered. You see some gaps here. You see the cracks here. This is solid hickory too, and you don't really see any gaps. That's light and white, so if there's gaps, you see it. Whereas this is darker and the bevels are black, so you don't see the gaps. Engineered is sold as it's great for all environments, humid and dry, but where engineered outperforms hardwood is in humid environments. But when it's dry, or in our climate here where it's hot, humid summers, cold, dry winters, what happens is the engineered handles the high humidity summer months really well. But in the winter, when it's really dry, the surface wood wants to shrink, but the base plywood doesn't let it. So you get these checks, and this is extreme because it's really dry back here. So solid, especially our live sawn white oak, it's really stable, so it handles all climates quite well. And the worst case, if it gets too dry, you'll have gaps between the boards, like you can see here. So basically, when it's dry, solid will shrink as a whole, and you get gaps. Whereas the engineered, the surface shrinks, but the base doesn't, so you get the checks in the boards.